In this unit, we will be discussing capitalism and how that system of the economy works in the United States. In terms of work in America, we see that workers are more productive than ever, yet job insecurity is high. And job insecurity is the fear of losing jobs or being replaced in your position at a job. In recent American history, especially as the economy has declined in previous years, the landscape of the workforce has changed. For instance, there are fewer jobs available than historically, which gives employers the opportunity to select workers and also to tell them that if their performance is not satisfactory, there are other people lined up waiting to take the job. This has contemporary workers working harder and trying to make sure they're able to keep their jobs. Okay? And again, people are working harder and longer to keep their jobs in order to prove loyalty to achieve marginal benefits. On the other hand, we see the development of the creative class. The creative class is described as a category of workers in many different occupations and industries united by the fact that creativity is central to the productive work. And so we see more entrepreneurship, we see more using technology and art and various types of work. Creativity is one feature that distinguishes humans from other animals. So creativity is generally considered to be a very important aspect of the human experience. Unfortunately, many jobs deny people the opportunity to be creative. However, some sectors of the workforce have huge creative components, and these sectors becoming more valued in society. And so you might see people who pursue creative work, and they may have to get a college degree to show how creative they could be at their workplace. Otherwise, you see people working for wage benefits. They work hourly instead of having salaries. That's a big way to distinguish someone who has a creative class job versus more of a blue-collared or a manual type job. So let's talk about the development of capitalism throughout our history. The feudal system preceded capitalism in Europe. And so when we think about the feudal system, you can think of more agrarian types of societies where people had large farms, people used a lot of labor to earn wages to sustain their lives. This system began to change as early as the 15th century with the enclosure movement. The enclosure movement started the thinking about private land and using private land for profit or personal gain. This can be epitomized by the expression the haves and have-nots, as those who are without private land had to pay those who own private land for the necessary resources. So they may be sharecroppers, if you will. They will pay off or give the owner of the land, the landowner, a portion of their what they have harvested to pay for the rent of that land. In the 18th century, new farming technologies led to an agricultural revolution. This helped increase the population and value of the land. And this came through innovative manufacturing and transportation technology because of an increased labor pool to fill new jobs. So what we see here is that with technology, this made the agricultural revolution occur. So we have lots of different types of machinery. We use animals in more efficient ways, which was able to produce more product. The tools and innovation made the work easier and also increased the production of food and other necessary resources. However, when there is a surplus of food and other resources, the population can increase. And so as you have more people coming into this small plot of land, there's some decisions to be made. Do you move out of the agricultural areas to a city? Do you stay? What do you do when populations increase? The agricultural revolution and the industrialization changed society in specific ways. We moved from a barter system to the use of legal currency to buy and sell goods. A barter system is when you trade certain types of skills you have. So let's say someone was great at manufacturing tables or clay pots. The other person was harvesting olives so you can make olive oil. So you would trade at a certain point to get the products that you need. And however, we use legal currency, which is a tangible object that has symbolic meaning for our ways to buy and sell. Okay. We also see another change where we went from agreements between individuals to contracts between corporations. So with agreements, you would have to have a relationship, whereas contracts, you have a product and you agree through the contract to buy it at a certain price, or you have wage labor and is paid for or bought from the corporation. Now we're going to discuss some theories and how they will explain our transition to capitalism, starting with Adam Smith. Adam Smith was an economist who believed that competition helps maintain a cohesive society. Also, he believed that specialization in terms of labor increases productivity and innovation. Also, he said that using money rather than barter makes trading more efficient. Okay, and these are the basic tenets of capitalism. George Simmel believed changing from piecework payment to wage labor and then to salary, we depersonalize exchange. So again, the relationships mean less. This was a great way to separate public and private spheres and give workers more freedom to enjoy private or leisure spheres. So again, how we can really compartmentalize the workspace versus the private or home space. With a transition to capitalism and the trade with currency rather than barter, corporations and employers found it easier to make deals with employees in a professional manner, so there's less messiness with relationships. Next, let's talk about Karl Marx. He stated that capitalism alienated workers from the products they produced, from the production process, from other workers, and from themselves and their creative tendencies. And so what he's seeing is that work makes us less human. We're not able to see the end product of the work we do. Usually this is, we think of the assembly fashion of producing a product. And we don't get to engage one another in relationships as much. And we also don't get to use our creative potentials in certain types of work. Karl Marx predicted both that capitalism would ultimately destroy itself and the working class would rise against the capitalist class, leading first to a period of socialism and then to a period of communism. So again, the bourgeoisie would be overtaken by the proletariat, and the bourgeoisie are the elites where the proletariat are the working class. And there's more people of the working class than is of the bourgeoisie, so if they collectively had class consciousness, they would be able to overtake the elites who are usually their oppressors. So Marx was concerned about the results of all this. He believed that the switch to currency, the switch to salary, and the specialization of professions leads to alienation in the workplace. In other words, people become separated from each other, from their work, and from the creative process. And again, Marx suggests that alienation leads to discontent and enemy, or a sense of normlessness in society. So capitalism leads to destruction of society, in his opinion. Max Weber, he linked the rise of capitalism to technology, ideas and beliefs, as well as the Protestant Reformation. So there was a direct link to religion, a type of religion. He expressed concerns about capitalism because he thought people became obsessed with working and making money that he could never enjoy. So Weber linked again the rise of capitalism to both technology and ideas, specifically ideas and beliefs connected to the Protestant Reformation. He thought he did not see it in a positive light because it caused alienation similar to what Marx thought, but because he thought people became obsessed with work and making money they could never enjoy, so their work becomes their new religion. And again, they couldn't produce enough to actually be happy. So, for example, people who work in the Ford factory could not afford to own a Ford, so they're producing this product they can never ever actually have for themselves. And they could not have free time to enjoy it. So people are working all these hours but having no end result, not really enjoying their life. Let's talk about what's going on with work today in current times. In today's society, people actually earn less money relative to the cost of living than in the early 1900s because men were only supposed to work, men were paid enough to provide for the whole family, and higher wages came at the cost of women's freedom and autonomy. The Ford Motor Company's idea of the family wage was based on a very limited definition of family. It favored married men with children over single men or married men without children, and it reinforced the notion that women should not work. The fact that women have often been paid less than men has served to deter them from seeing their work as a lifelong choice. The wage structure was one factor that made women see marriage as the only way to have financial security. And this is important because we see how these different structures and institutions are connected. We see how work is connected to the structure of the family and even gender, and how we all make decisions based upon what we know about social structures and institutions, how society really works. So some women who may be working class may see that they don't have an option of not working. They can't opt out if they want to have a family. They may have to work along with their partner to produce enough. Whereas someone from a different class, let's say they're more upper middle class or affluent, they may have the option of choosing to stay at home and being with their children because their partner makes enough money. Compared to other industrialized countries and some developing countries, Americans work longer hours and have fewer vacation benefits and less generous family leave. Even when generous benefits are available, workers often do not take advantage of them, which suggests that work is central to the lives of Americans. Again, this may be also due to the idea that if they're not working hard enough or showing that they're loyal to their job, they may lose it even though they're producing a great product for their employer. Okay, so while more American companies are offering family leave policies, again, such as flex time and flex space, where you can work at home or some other space, employees are not necessarily taking advantage of them in great numbers. Arlie Hartschild suggested that there has been a reversal of the sacred and profane. So sacred and profane are ideas that one side is almost religious and we value it highly, and that's something that we desire to have in our life, whereas profane is just the common everyday experiences or objects. Okay, so what we see is that people would rather be at work than at home because work is sometimes less chaotic. Because sometimes, we can't control what's happening at home, especially when our work is at our home. There's not these distinct spaces. And what we also see is that studies show that working mothers are less depressed and have higher self-esteem than mothers who do not work. Yet they're also more likely to feel tired and anxious, and they have higher divorce rates. So women working has its benefits, but also it has its consequences, especially considering their own emotional and mental health, and also with the family structure. So again, there's no right answer or right way. We have to consider all the factors involved, especially when considering social institutions and structures. Next, let's talk about globalization. So again, we're decentering the United States and talking about how various countries, different nations, different types of economies are linked. So globalization is defined and described as the processes that create and intensified worldwide social exchanges and interdependencies. And interdependencies is talking about how various nations or countries need one another. They have certain skills and strengths, but they need other countries to provide them certain goods or services, and vice versa. So globalization creates an increase in trade and economic exchanges. It also magnifies the division between the world's rich and the poor. So those countries who are already doing well become richer, and those who are poor tend to do worse through globalization. Okay, so while globalization is not a new phenomenon, the current period of globalization has a number of new elements, and it has clearly demarcated the division between the world's rich and poor. The question is whether globalization can truly be a force to close the gap, or if it serves only to widen it. Next, the reign of corporations. So a corporation is a juristic A corporation is a juristic. A corporation is a juristic person, an entity that has all the legal rights, duties, and responsibilities of a person, although the primary goal is generally pursuit of profit. So legally, corporations like Walmart, Taco Bell, Dillard's, these are all seen as a person with having the same legal rights as a human being. These corporations or persons, they can buy and sell property, sue and be sued in court, and so on. However, again, corporations aren't people. They are So think about, are there problems with giving corporations rights when they inherently don't have morals or ethics? Their only concern, again, is profits, pursuit of profits. So this model of corporations seen as an entity on its own, as a person, raises some ethical concerns. Okay, so one, corporate ethics. How should the business be run? Should we be thinking about people as human beings? Should we care about their values and concerns? Also, environmental responsibilities. Although these entities, these corporations seen as people, they may have tremendous effect on human beings in terms of their environments. And there's issues concerning environmental racism. If I was a nuclear waste company or a company producing nuclear waste, should I care about where my dump is? Should I care about the people there? Or should I care about where's the cheapest place so I can have the most profit? Also, another issue are fair wages. Should we be providing people with livable wages if our only concern really is to produce profit? And again, since profit is our only concern, truly, should we take our jobs overseas if we can pay people less and gain more profit? Should we provide employment for the people in our own countries? Okay, so the overriding objective of corporations is to make profits for their shareholders, and in order to do this, they must find ways to beat the competition. Sometimes these efforts lead corporations to cross the line of legality, or at least to come close. There is constant tension for corporations in terms of pressures to be environmentally responsible, which can add to overall cost, and pressures to be profitable. Next, to fight for workers' rights, workers sometimes form a union, a collective organization that formally unites for the purpose of collective bargaining. And in recent times, there's been a decline in unions. However, they're very important because unions are there to have people in a particular work environment come together to promote better working conditions, and also to make sure their salaries were stable or maybe even increasing. So unions became more important as the pursuit of profit became more important for corporations. So again, these individuals come together to make sure their rights, their needs are being met, because the corporations are usually only concerned about their own profits and their own rights. Unions traditionally helped to ensure that workers were treated fairly and that the working conditions were safe. When a company refuses to negotiate or renew a contract, this is called union busting.